this is John Colo with GrowingYourGreens.com. Today we have another exciting episode for him here in my desert garden. And today I want to share with you guys probably the easiest plant to grow if you want to eat leafy greens in the desert or other extreme climates, whether it's the tropics, whether it's over 100 degrees. This plant will thrive, and this plant will give you a nice lettuce alternative because, as you guys know, lettuce not easily grown in 100 plus degree weather. It is June already here, and we've already had a first 110 degree day, I believe, definitely over 100 degrees. The climate is getting warmer. So that's why I've really focused on growing plants that are easy and are going to easily laugh at 110 degrees when your lettuce is usually frying or bolting. And of course, this plant tastes nice and mild. You could use it as a one-to-one replacement instead of lettuce. It is so delicious, eaten in Southeast Asian countries as a staple green. And of course, when you grow it yourself, unlike when it is normally wild harvested and eaten, where it can have contamination, you grow it in good soil, you're not going to get sick from eating it like some warning articles may suggest online when they're harvesting from polluted waterways. And the reason why I want to give you guys an opening shot with this first is because you guys can see I am growing sweet potatoes. These are actually purple sweet potatoes. We got, I think, just mostly lilac purple sweet potatoes sourced from Baker Creek that are normally started from slips, right, off the sweet potato. The sweet potato is a morning glory style family plant, and actually so is the one I'll be showing you guys. It's related to the sweet potato, but it doesn't make the edible tubers. It makes and is solely grown for the edible leaves. That being said, I did want to remind you guys that the sweet potato leaves also that thrive in 100 plus degree weather, also in the tropics and other warm places, especially if it's humid or dry. You could eat the leaves raw and or cooked. Many people don't know you could eat the sweet potato leaves. There are special varieties of sweet potatoes that are grown specifically for the leaves that really don't make any roots. That being said, I like the kind that grows the purple roots. And of course, I will also pick and eat the leaves raw in salads and also in heat processed dishes. But with the sweet potatoes, you got to either plant the potato and let it slip out or make your own slips. It's a lot of work. So let's go ahead and go over and share with you guys how I grow this amazing leafy green every single year and have been growing it for many years the easiest way possible. So the leafy green I want to show you guys today, in English, I know it as water spinach. If you go to the Asian supermarket, which is where actually this was bought, it's known as ong choy. There are a few different kinds of ong choy, some that like to grow in more watery, some like to grow more in the soil. I don't know which one of these is which, if any. That being said, I could say I did buy this whole bunch of ong choy at my local Asian market, and I remove all the bottom leaves and just leave a few top leaves on there. And then what happens is I just literally stick it in a blender craft. This happens to be a Blendtec blender craft. I like how deep it is. I literally just let this sit in the water, and you guys will see these will start to grow little roots out there. Now, these are the ones purchased at the supermarket. You know, I try to go to the supermarket and get them fresh. They're about $2.99 a pound. They can run somewhere up to $5.99 a pound sometimes. And then I've been doing this technique for years, and usually it takes a long time for it to develop the roots. I don't know, that's because these have been put in cold storage and then cut and then put on a truck, shipped, and then they get here maybe a week later. I'm not sure how long it's in transit. But once it's been cold shocked, they don't seem to grow as quickly. So the other way I've been doing it after the pandemic is I found at a farmer's market in San Francisco, the Alamany Farmer's Market, I found sellers that sell the ong choy. So I'll go to the farmer's market and buy a bunch, and also all the bottom leaves on this were removed as well. I'll post a link, I'll post a picture actually right there. You guys can see what the picture of this looked like right when I got it. I stripped off all the leaves. I literally put it in a vase of water to grow, and it was looking really nice. And you guys could see just after like a week or two, you guys could see now, these plants have a significantly bigger root mass, right, than these ones. These have a little bit of roots, but these have way more roots. They've rooted out so much more quickly. I believe that's because they were literally picked like the day before and then sold fresh from the farmer's market. So they're like more living and you guys can see the roots are really getting a lot longer on these guys. So this is the method I prefer, and you guys can see also there's a lot more growth on these. These are looking wimpy. I mean, I've grown them this way, but then like they just don't seem to perform as well. Once I get these in the ground, they just take off and they go crazy. Now, these can also be started from seed. I have tried to order seeds from outside the country because selling Ong Choi seeds in the US may be considered illegal, because in certain states this is considered a noxious weed and maybe even illegal for you to plant. That being said, in the state I am in, Nevada, this is not considered a noxious weed because once it freezes, I mean, this plant really doesn't even like it below 40 degrees. Below 40 degrees, it's gone. But if you live in a state like Florida, where this can go into a waterway, it could clog up waterways and be a big problem. So, of course, do your own diligence to find out if this is legal or illegal to grow and act accordingly. That being said, I did try to order seeds, and they've gotten confiscated by the U.S. government because they're noxious weeds and not allowed into the country. So that's why I like to propagate them by cuttings. I'm like, man, if they sell the plant or the greens to eat and I could root it, I'm gonna grow it, because I've also found that growing things from cuttings are a lot more easy than growing from seed. So anyways, these guys are getting ready to be planted. They got lots of nice roots on there. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys actually how I plant this, the super simple and easy method that I've learned over the many years. All right, so now I wanna show you guys how I plant one of these plants. Basically, the goal is to get all the root zone underneath the ground. They basically root at the node, so you wanna get as many nodes in as possible. The issue is this tends to be quite long, so you can't just easily dig deep holes. Like I use a bulb planter that only digs like a couple 4 inches. We really want to go deep, and I'm like, how can I drill a deep hole without really disturbing the soil that much, right? So what I found was, you know, I redid the trim on the bottom of my floors, you know, and so this is the old trim made out of real wood. It's about, I don't know, maybe 1.5 inches wide width, or 1 3/4, and it's just a long piece. So what I do, this is where my sugar snap peas were, and they just got cut out. So now we're just gonna go ahead and dig a deep hole with this piece of trim. Of course, the first step is make sure the soil is nice and wet. I've been watering it really well for the last couple of days. Also, as this is called water spinach, it does like to grow in moist soil. So this is nice and wet. So then basically I stick this in, and then I just shove it into the ground. And then even then, I'll take a hammer and then I'll tap it in. And then once I have it in the ground, it's stuck, then I basically waddle it back and forth to kind of like, you know, wedge it in to make like a kind of like a hole that kind of looks like this, like really long. So like at the base, it's really kind of narrow, but as it goes up to the top, it gets a lot wider. And then I pull it out. I like pulling it out. All right. So you guys can see literally my hole was from here to here. So that's definitely, you know, almost a little bit deeper than I need to get all the roots in. And the other thing I want to tell you guys is that these sat in the blender carafes, like in a sunny window, actually, for about, it was definitely maybe about 2 weeks. Well, these ones were set in for 2 weeks. The other ones I had for probably about 3 weeks. So you definitely want to start this process early. You definitely don't want to plant out your water spinach into your garden until the evening temperatures are above 50. Otherwise, it will stunt their growth. Right these days, I think we're like evenings or maybe 70s, maybe even low 80s. And the days are like 100s. But that's where these things thrive. Of course, after they were in a windowsill, I brought them out inside a shade house so they could acclimate to the temperature. Then I started basically hardening them off by putting them in the sun a few hours each day until they could handle the full sun. Once we have this hole, the cool thing is sometimes I'll sprinkle some like mycorrhizae on there, sometimes I won't. And now this hole, because it is so deep, we could just waddle this whole cutting all the way down in there without damaging the stem. That's so important, guys. And now we got it all in there. All right, the next step is we're just gonna go ahead and take a mixture of worm castings, rock dust, soil humates, boogie black insect frass, and then just drop it in the hole. That way, these plants have some really good microbiology, including bacteria and fungi, as well as trace minerals, so that they can thrive. So we got that one planted out. And now we're just gonna fill in the hole for this guy. We planted out also. This is super simple, easy. I haven't found a quicker way to do this yet. I really love that I could just, shove this in there, and even if the roots are a little bit wide, this will totally work really nicely. And then once I have the top, pop it out, I'll then go ahead and I want to train it a little bit. These ones aren't necessarily climbers, but if you pin them up, you can train them. So basically I'll kind of train it to go up the trellis, because then this will end up falling over. So every once in a while you have to clip it up, because otherwise they don't want to grow out and just sprawl. But I have a lot of vertical space. I don't have a lot of horizontal space. So yeah, we're just gonna let these guys grow up, and this is gonna be one of my major food sources for the summer. All right, so as you guys can see, I got a bunch of my water spinach plants in. Another comment or tip I want to share with you guys is that I started kind of trying to do this early in the morning before this area got a lot of sun. And actually this one I didn't actually pin up, so I need to pin them up here. But here's the thing, I want you guys actually to plant them early in the morning so they're not like getting direct sun, so they can kind of rest a little bit before the sun comes on. Probably a better strategy is to plant it at the end of the day as the sun is going down, so it can actually just kind of, fix its place overnight before the sun comes up the next day. This area of my garden basically gets like late morning, midday, all the way until almost sundown. This will stay really sunny, so these guys will thrive. They're not looking super happy right now because they just got transplanted from literally living in water their whole lives and rooting now into ultra wet soil. So I did also water this in really good because we want to make sure the soil is nice and wet. And then also another thing I may do is I may want to try to block a little bit of sun. I don't have any kind of cover, so I might just use some of these things, which will kind of like do some diffused sun on them. Give them a little bit of shade there. So yeah, I always think of cool, interesting things to do with all the different things I have laying around. So yeah, I think I like that. It's a good idea. That'll help give some shade to my little babies. So yeah, and then of course after the end of the day, I'm gonna take this off and let them go to town and grow like gangbusters. I really wanted to give you guys an 11-day update on my water spinach that I planted. You guys saw how I rooted them in like a blender jar. I then basically dug the hole with the stick. I planted them, and it has been 11 days later, and I want to tell you guys that every one of these 11 days has been over 100 degrees. And so the first few days I covered these with the black like plastic trays, so it would get partial sun, and then now you guys can see they're just getting exposed to full sun, and look at them. These guys are shooting off new growth, new tips. They're looking nice and erect all the way down. This is gonna provide me lots of leaves in just another few weeks or so. Like all this here is pushing, this is all new growth, and I alternated some. Every other one like had the ones with the weak roots from the local store, and then the one next to it has the ones with the long roots that rooted much better, but they're still, both kinds are doing well. You guys can see all the way down, I got all my amazing water spinach. So I just want to remind you guys that, water spinach is one amazing food, ong choy as it is called in many Asian supermarkets. Check it out and find it near you. Get it rooted, get it planted, and get it growing so you guys could be eating out of your own yard. I love this stuff. All right, guys, I wanted to go ahead and give you guys an update. It's basically been 3 weeks and 1 day since you saw me transplant these water spinach plants that I rooted into the ground. As you can see, they're all doing great. Some of them are towering up at like 2.5 feet so far. Most of them are at 1 foot, and they're having lots of leaves. At this point, I could start to harvest some of the top growth. I like to harvest like tip leaves, but not like the center growth tips. And you can see I just got the whole wall of literally water spinach. I continued to use these little plastic clips to clip them up because they will want to fall over because I don't want them trailing. You could see the ones that I planted from the farm that rooted better, definitely doing better, but even the ones that were not from the farm are still doing all right. They're just not quite as lush And of course, it has been over 100 degrees every single day. Water spinach, I mean, I'll taste one now actually because they're getting bigger for you guys on the camera. They're really nice plants to eat. Non-mucilaginous, you know, a lot of greens that would grow in the summertime like the Malabar spinach or the longevity spinach. Even the Egyptian spinach, you know, those tend to be a little bit more mucilaginous. This is like zero mucilage. It's a really crunchy kind of like lettuce flavor. Doesn't taste hard like spinach, doesn't have that oxalate content that like standard spinach does. And of course, this is also very high in iron. So you need some plant-based, plant-sourced available non-heme iron that is absorbed selectively versus like animal iron that just all gets absorbed and you may be getting too much iron. This is a great source. And of course, there's other nutrients in here that are cofactors that we need to absorb iron, such as the vitamin C is rich in the water spinach, of course, the chlorophyll. There's so many studies on the water spinach, and actually what you may not even know is that water spinach has been eaten for nearly 2,000 years by humans, right? This was eaten as a wild food, of course, has since been cultivated. I would say the water spinach is way less hybridized than, say, an iceberg lettuce. This is more true to its form. Once again, I do want to warn you that in some states this is considered a noxious weed and may be illegal for you to grow. So you will definitely want to check that out. I did notice the other day that you can actually buy seeds for this, because I know some of you guys like to start seeds on Etsy from US-based sellers. I would not encourage you to buy water spinach seeds from outside the country. They can get confiscated. Of course, as I showed in this episode, the absolute easy way to grow this is just to go to a local Asian store. If you have a farmer that grows it near you, is just to buy it and then root it and plant it, and you'll have literally endless amounts of greens, even over 100 degrees. We've been basically averaging about 110 degrees every single day for the last 3 weeks, and the water spinach just laughs, ha ha ha, at 110 degrees. That being said, once it gets below like 50 degrees and 40, it's like checking out. It's hating it, man. So water spinach, definitely one of my favorite greens to grow during the summer. That just absolutely loves the heat and grows rather quickly, as you're seeing. All right, so now I want to give you guys a 32-day update on my water spinach. Look at my water spinach now. It's like 3 feet tall, maybe even more, looking amazing. And now this is the point where I could start harvesting it back, because not only does it have the primary shoots, it's sending up secondary and third shoots off the bottom of the cuttings. And I want to remind you guys, here in Las Vegas, we have hit over 100 degrees every single day of the 32 days, except for 2 days. I guess we had a 90 degree and a 98, but it's been 105, 110. One day it hit 120, guys. Hasn't stopped the water spinach at all. I want to show you guys actually one of the indicators that your water spinach is healthy. And also I want to share with you guys my special tip you're not going to hear anywhere else. How to increase your biomass, which includes all the top growth of the water spinach, as well as increase the vitamin C content and increase the iodine, which is very important nutrient for us that unfortunately is not found in many foods these days. All right, so now I want to show you guys this. This is a sign that your water spinach is getting more mature. As the leaves emerge, they're going to be very thin, you know, especially when the plant is just growing, they're really thin. As the plant gets more mature, they get a little whiter. And then when the plant's really happy, you guys can see these get, you know, really wide here. They no longer stay thin. If your plant is larger and the leaves are staying thin, then that means you got some nutrient issues. The plant is simply not happy. You know, part of the way I garden is not only by experience, but also I spend time to look up published studies on many of the different crops that I grow so I can maximize their nutrition, because, you know, after all, I'm not growing water spinach because it looks pretty, which it does, fills this stupid block wall that I don't like looking at. It'll just be overcome with the water spinach greenery, which to me is quite beautiful, hopefully also to you. But more importantly than the beauty, this stuff is edible, it's quite nutritious, and it is my main salad ingredient here in the summertime. Now that it's 30 days, they're getting big, I can come along and harvest these larger leaves. Now I want to show you guys my tip on to boost the growth, boost how much your water spinach will be producing, and biofortify the water spinach with an essential mineral that can be deficient in many people's diets these days. All right, so we have a study here called Uptake of Different Species of Iodine by Water Spinach and Its Effect to Growth. Published study is linked down below. And basically in this study, they supplemented different forms of iodine to the water spinach to find which one was the most helpful. And then also they did it in different amounts. So they found out, hey, if I give the water spinach this much, what happens? If I give it this much, what happens? And then they keep increasing it to see what happens. So I've summarized that up in a custom data chart here. You probably can't see it on the page, so I'll throw it up on the screen right there so you guys can see it. But as you guys can see, along the side, we have the biomass increase on one side. The other side, we have the vitamin C increase and iodine content. Along the bottom, we have the iodine concentration in milligrams per liter. So, you know, when they started adding like 0 iodine, you could see the iodine content in the leaves were jack because iodine is a mineral that's likely deficient in the soils unless you are amending it into your soils. Once they started adding it in smaller amounts, you could see it started to go up, and it actually at 1 milligram per liter, it basically maxed out the iodine content in the water spinach, right? If they put more iodine, like, hey, Americans think more is better, right? If this is good, then eat a lot more of it. Once they started increasing it to like 2 and even more than that, it started going down. Not enough iodine in your soil is a problem. The perfect amount is perfect. You're going to get the best. And then once you add more, it starts to go down. So it's like if you played baseball, you want to hit the sweet spot on the bat. Right at the sweet spot, you can hit that home run. If you're a little bit too high, a little bit too low, you're going to foul out, you know, hit the ball to the side or whatever. You know, and likewise, they tested the same thing with the vitamin C content, right? We need vitamin C. We don't produce it like dogs can produce it. And vitamin C is in many different foods. But hey, can you maximize the vitamin C content in the water spinach? As proved by this study, yes, you can. Once again, they started adding the iodine concentration. And as you guys could see at 0, there's, you know, like way less vitamin C content in the water spinach as they got up to, once again, 1 milligram per liter, right? It maxed out the vitamin C content, and that actually quickly plummeted once the iodine content got too much. Finally, let's go ahead and talk about the biomass increase, which is the blue line on the chart. And as you guys can see, at 0 iodine supplementation, the biomass was at 20, and it increased almost to like 30 at 1 milligram per liter of iodine. And then after that, of course, it literally plummeted even to less biomass, right? The plant was hurt by too much iodine. You know, and this is just the iodine chart. And, you know, there's charts like this for every different mineral out there, you know. Iodine is not often supplemented, unfortunately, in standard agriculture. It's like an extra mineral. People tend to think, oh, we don't really need it. But, you know, it's, as you saw in this study, it's critical for optimal growth of the water spinach as it is for many plants. So, I mean, that magic 1 milligram per liter is the magic number. And I want you guys to fortify your soil with the iodine, because most people don't. You know, the best way I found to do that is in a plant from the ocean that has the iodine in it. And this is actually called the Pure Kelp Dry 0020. This is a water-soluble kelp that you literally dissolve this in water, spray it on the leaves, also the soil of your plant. I'll do this a few times per season with my water spinach, so I already know my soil has it because I've been doing it previous seasons. And if I see my water spinach growth is like not as robust as I'd like, I might hit it with the kelp. And if I see that it's like now tapering off, then it's like, oh, I did too much kelp. So it's really hard to know how much unless you get like soil test and leaf tissue analysis and all this kind of stuff. So, you know, more is not better. You definitely want to at least apply it once, maybe twice, maybe midway during your growing season if you see the growth slows down, because, you know, the water spinach should grow like the gangbusters if it's happy. If you guys want to get this pure kelp dry, that can be used on all your crops besides just water spinach. And I would estimate that other crops would benefit also from the iodine in appropriate amounts. Link down below to the Boogie Brew, boogiebrew.net/GYG to get the GYG hookup price on the pure kelp dry. You know, I rely on my food as the primary source of my minerals and vitamins that I get in my diet. My goal is to not supplement my diet with any additional nutrients, but get it from the food. And the only way I could do that is by growing high quality food that has things like iodine in there. Most Americans are not eating iodine in their diet, and that's why they fortify salt that most people put on their foods. You know, iodized salt, every salt you use pretty much, unless it's a sea salt or whatever, is going to be fortified with iodine so that people can get the iodine in them. And me, I prefer to spray the kelp on my plants, eat my plants to get my iodine. Of course, sea vegetables, also another very important food that you may also want to include in your diet to get some iodine, as well as other trace minerals that are no longer in the earth because all the minerals have been leached out into the ocean, so the sea vegetables can benefit from them. So if you guys enjoyed this episode learning about water spinach today, please be sure to give this a big thumbs up. More importantly, share this with other people that are growing in extreme climates over 100 degrees, even in the tropics. This plant will love it. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you know some of my new and upcoming episodes I've coming every 5 to 7 days. You never know where I'll show up or what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel. Make sure you click the little bells to get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check out past episodes. The past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 1,700 episodes at this time on this channel, dedicated to teach you guys how to grow your own food at home and beyond. Finally, if you guys want to get a Growing Your Greens t-shirt or Powered by Plants t-shirt, you could buy one at compassion-tees.com. So with that, my name is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep on growing.